welcome back to my bookish group. Today I wanted to go through my physical TBR and pick out a couple of books that I'm really excited to read in 2026. I kind of want to do like some predictions of like what I think I'll rate them, what I think I'll think about them, just kind of what they are as well, and maybe put them on your radar in case you haven't heard of any of these, which given the stack I have might be a little bit of a stretch. I feel like we've all heard of these books, but anyway, later on in the year I might make a video after I've read all of these and see if I'm really as clairvoyant as I think I am, which I'm thinking I'm gonna nail it. So that's gonna be my prediction 2026. Okay, so I have these kind of divided by genres. We're gonna go ahead and get started with the romance genre. All right, so we're starting with Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. So Ashley Poston is one of my favorite authors. I personally just love her style of writing and also just her style of storytelling. I've read The 7-Year Slip, The Dead Romantics, and Novel Love Story by her. I have loved all of them for vastly different reasons. In fact, The 7-Year Slip remains one of my all-time favorite books I've ever read. Ever. It's on a special shelf. But Sounds Like Love is the only book I haven't read by her that is out. It is the most recent one that she released, and she actually released it on my birthday this year. So thank you to my queen. She did that for me personally. She is coming out with a new book this year, and she's also like got hired by, I think, Lucasfilms to write Star Wars rom-coms or something. So anyway, she got selected to do that, which is so cool. And I've never watched Star Wars, but I'm going to read that. I'm going to read the back of the book and then we'll continue. She can't get him out of her head. Joni Lark has a secret. She's one of the most coveted songwriters in Los Angeles, and yet she can't write. There's an emptiness inside her, and nothing seems to fill it. When she returns to her hometown of Vienna Shores, North Carolina, she hopes that the sand, the surf, and the concerts at the Revelry, her family's music venue, will spark inspiration. But when Joni gets there, nothing is how she left it. Her best friend is hiding something, her mother's memories are fading fast, and the Revelry is closing. How can Joni write when her world is leaving her behind? Then she hears it. A melody in her head, lyricless and half-formed, and an alluring and addictive voice to go with it, belonging, apparently, to a wry musician with an emptiness of his own. Surely he's a figment of Joni's overworked imagination. Then a very real man shows up in Vienna Shores. He's arrogant and guarded, not at all like the sweet, funny voice in Joni's head, and he has a plan for breaking their inconvenient telepathic connection. Finish the song haunting them both, and hope they don't risk their hearts or their secrets in the process. Because that melody, the one drawing them together, what if it's there for a reason? I love her. I love that all of her books have a paranormal aspect to them because I don't usually like the romance genre. However, there's something else. There's like a paranormal aspect, something I'm really intrigued about. But more than that, Ashley Poston is just a comfort read for me. Anything she writes just sucks me in immediately. I love the way that she describes things and the way that she builds the world, and also the way that there's always something else going on. Things don't just like magically come together with a neat little bow. It's very human, very real. The lessons are real, the emotions, everything just feels well thought out and very human, and that's something that I really appreciate in her particular writing style. That all being said, I would really like to read this early on in the year, sometime maybe like March or April. The new book comes out in June, one day before my birthday. Thank you again. So I think I would like to go ahead and read that in the springtime, and then I'll have another one to hold me over. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. And I am anticipating giving this a 5-star. It's going to be between a 4.75 and a 5-star. I don't ever anticipate giving Ashley Poston any lower than a 4.75. Like that's just an impossibility. So that's my prediction. Okay, so book 2 is a little bit more complicated because I'm going to show you a book. However, it is a series. So it is Mile High, particularly the Windy City series. I really want to read the Windy City series in 2026. Like I said, usually contemporary romance isn't really my thing. Sports romances, though, I do enjoy. I like that aspect. Again, I need something more than just like, oh, they're in love. From what I have heard of the Windy City series, the writing just feels a lot older and a lot more mature, and the stories I think are more, again, mature and older. I like the fact that they're not in college, they're not, young, like, and not that they're old, but like I like a more mature kind of setting for romances because I don't know, I'm kind of past all that other stuff and I would like to read more for my age range. I'm 24. I also panic bought the entire series because I was told that they were going out of print because they got, like, I guess, trad published and they were gonna have new covers. but I still see them everywhere, so I don't know if that was true, and I have the whole series. Oh. But yeah, so the Windy City series as a whole is just different books that follow different characters, and I think all of them are playing different sports. So it's not just like, oh, this is all going to be hockey or all baseball or all football or whatever. Like, I think they all play different sports. Maybe. All right, so now as far as like when I would want to read this, I think I'd probably slot the first book in around February, because I could think with Valentine's, I'm more in a romance mood during that time period anyway. So I feel like if I'm ever going to start this series and it's going to hook me, it's going to be for Valentine's. So I think that's what I'm anticipating starting this. And then as far as ratings go, individual books, I don't know. The series as a whole, I think would probably end up being like a 4-star series. The individual books will probably range, I think, from 3 to 4, maybe. Not that I'm anticipating that they're going to be bad. It's just that it's so not my particular genre that unless it does something very different to other contemporary sports romances, I don't know that I'm going to love it. So we'll see. I have high hopes, but I'm also like wary about this series. So let me know. Okay, and that's it for the romance category. So now let's go ahead and go into fantasy. Okay, the first book I want to talk about is A Daughter of No Worlds. Yes, I do have the original out of print hardcover editions of these books. And let me say something. So this was an investment. I have the series. I have them in the original hardcovers. These covers to me are fantastic. I don't love the new covers. No shade, no tea, nothing. However, these are just leagues better in my opinion. I don't know why you would ever want to change these. They're beautiful, stunning, fantastic, amazing. I'm glad I have these. Now, did I spend way too much money? 100%. Should I have waited? Yes. Yes, I should have. Let's go ahead and read what this is about. A life in slavery taught Tasana how to survive with nothing but a sharp eye, a quick mind, and a touch of magic. But the night she tried to buy her freedom, she nearly paid with her life. Instead, she murdered the most powerful man in Threll. Forced to flee, she has only one chance at saving those she left behind, pledging herself to the Orders, an organization of magic wielders strong enough to destroy her former masters. To earn her place, Tasana is forced into an apprenticeship with Maxentarius Farliani, a handsome and reclusive fire wielder who despises the Orders. He has no interest in helping her, but as the Orders' grip tightens around them both, his bloody past may be the key to her future or their downfall. Under looming war, Tasana must master her magic and survive the Order's demands, and as her feelings for Maxentarius deepen, she is forced to decide how much she is willing to trade away for revenge. The Orders have bigger plans for Tasana, darker plans, but Tasana will stop at nothing to save those she abandoned, even if it means forfeiting her freedom and sacrificing her heart, even if it means wielding death itself. Need I say more? I don't think so. That sounds really good. And I'm currently reading Throne of Glass, and that just kind of has that kind of energy, that vibe of it. And I've heard amazing things about this series. So I am really excited to get to that and just, I don't know, learn more about it. I think when I finish Throne of Glass, I'm going to take a break from it for a little bit. And then I think I'll probably want something. Like, it's just so exciting. And I like found my love for that again. And I really think Daughter of No Worlds is going to be the perfect thing. There's only 3 books. They're pretty hefty, but they look really cool. So I'm very excited for that. And I am anticipating this is going to be a 5-star series for me. Each book I'm probably going to give 5 stars. It looks so good. Okay, the next book is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I've been kind of putting it off just because I think it's like very much a mental investment to get into, just because I imagine R.F. Kuang, I haven't read any of her books, but like I imagine she's a very smart and intelligent writer. And I just think that this is going to be a fantastic story. Let's go ahead and read what this is about. Traduttore, traditore. An act of translation is always an act of betrayal. 1828. Robin Swift, orphaned by cholera in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lovell. Lovell? There, Robin trains for years in Latin, Ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. Babel is the world's center for translation and, more importantly, magic. Silverworking, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power as the arcane craft serves the empire's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. But knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, he realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide. Can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? Brother, Yeah, I want to read this book right now. This is going to be like, I'm going to try to read this in January. Like, I want to know what this is about. I think it's super, super, super prevalent to right now, specifically that last line that I just read. I'm bilingual, I'm fluent in English and Spanish, and I am totally aware that sometimes when you translate something from Spanish, especially Spanish, which is like a romance language, they're known for being so poetic and like, I don't know, they just have so much beauty in just like a normal word. And I know that when you translate things from Spanish to English, it loses a lot of that artistic quality of it. It loses a lot of the meaning, the beauty, all of that stuff. So the fact that this is a book about what's lost in translation, and the things that are lost in translation are actually made into currency and like magic, like whoa, so freaking cool. So I'm anticipating this is going to be a 5 star. I want to read it immediately. I just think this is going to be fantastic. All right, As Many Souls as Stars. This is a brand new book by Natasha Siegel. I don't know if this is a debut, but this is my Allurial pick for the month of December, I believe. And it's absolutely stunning. Look at those edges, so pretty. All right, and this book is about a witch makes a Faustian bargain with a beautiful demon, drawing her into a cat and mouse chase that spans lifetimes. Say less words. 1592. Sybil Harding is a first daughter, cursed to bring disaster to those around her. She is trapped in a house with a mother paralyzed by grief and a father willing to sacrifice everything in pursuit of magic. Miriam Richter is a creature of shadow. Forged by the dark arts many years ago, she is doomed to exist for eternity and destined to be alone, killing mortals and consuming their souls for sustenance. Everything changes when she meets Sybil, whose soul shines with a light so bright that Miriam must claim it for herself. She offers a bargain. She will grant Sybil reincarnation in exchange for her soul. Thus begins a dance across centuries as Miriam seeks Sybil in every lifetime to claim her prize. Sybil isn't inclined to play by the rules, but when it becomes clear that Miriam holds the key to breaking her family curse, Sybil finds, for the first time in her many lives, that she might have the upper hand. As they circle each other, drawn together inescapably as light and dark, the bond forged between them grows stronger. In their battle for dominance, only one of them can win, but perhaps they can't survive without each other. This year, I read Bare Bones in the Midnight Soil, and I loved it. The idea of, this kind of like through the centuries and lifetimes and all of this stuff, this kind of like almost toxic but inescapable love, it just was so interesting to me. And that's what I feel you get with this book. That's absolutely gorgeous. I just think it's going to be really good. And it's a short book too. Like, it's really not that bad. Also, I'm in a traveling book club with one of my best friends, and we send books to each other. We read them and then we just like talk about them. And this is one that she also really wants to read, including Babel. So these are both books that I do need to read like early on in the year because of that. And I also just want to. So it's perfect. Hopefully this will be like January, February is what I'm thinking. I feel like this is going to be between a 4 and a 5 star. I don't think it could be any lower than that. It sounds really good. Okay, so this is another Allurial book, but it is The Sacred Space Between by Callie Reed. And it's also just so pretty. So let's read what this one is about. The Abbey has controlled the minds of its patrons for a millennium through memory magic stolen from exiled saints. At 15, Jude was exiled to the bleak moors in the countryside so that the Abbey could maintain control over his burgeoning magic. Almost a decade later, he wants to live a normal life, free from its oppressive gaze. When the Abbey sends Maeve, a stubbornly devout iconographer, to paint an updated icon of him, Jude makes it his mission to get rid of her as soon as possible. That is until he discovers she holds the same tainted magic of the saints as he does, and that the icons she paints may be the key to destroying the Abbey's power. As Jude and Maeve draw closer, the two of them face a choice. They can take on the full power of the Abbey and risk their lives for freedom, or escape back to exile and make the most of their fading memories. But this institution has eyes everywhere, and the only thing the Abbey loves more than a saint is a martyr. Now, that just sounds really cool, and I love unique or just kind of like old-timey feeling names like Maeve and Jude. So that also just drew me in completely. However, somebody said, and like all of the aesthetic things that the author has done have been surrounding Hozier and Hozier's music. And she basically just said that this is like reading his discography in a way, which I love. And I think there was this other book I read this year called This Is How You Lose a Time War, which was also compared to Hozier's music. And that's become one of my favorite books of all time. So I have high hopes for this. I'm predicting a 4 star for this one. I also kind of think it might surprise me and end up being a 5 star if it lives up to the hype. Then the last book on the sci-fi fantasy genre section is Red Rising. Brother, this has been a long time coming. Let's just do this little back part here. His wife taken, his people enslaved, driven by a longing for justice and the memory of lost love, Daryl will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies, even if he must become one of them to do so. For the first time, Red will rise. People that I never imagined in my life would like this book said it's one of their favorite books and series of all time. That alone is intriguing enough for me to say, okay, I need to give this a shot. Not only that, though, I don't read a lot of like sci-fi, I read more fantasy. I would like to get into sci-fi, and I feel like this is a good start. Also, male author. I don't usually read male authors, and I would like to, so that's another reason why this is on the list. And also, the main character is a man, which is also something I don't usually do. So this is just going to be a whole new experience all around, and I'm excited for it. I feel like it's going to be somewhere between a 3.5 to a 4.5. I think that's going to be the range I give it. And that is it for the sci-fi and fantasy genre. And now we have our last one. So this is just fiction. Okay, we are starting off super strong in this category with The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Let's go ahead and read the little blurb. Esther Greenwood is brilliant, beautiful, enormously talented, and successful, but slowly going under, maybe for the last time. In her acclaimed and enduring masterwork, Sylvia Plath brilliantly draws the reader into Esther's breakdown with such intensity that her insanity becomes palpably real, even rational. As accessible an experience as going to the movies, a deep penetration into the darkest and most harrowing corners of the human psyche, The Bell Jar is an extraordinary accomplishment and a haunting American classic. So I love Sylvia Plath. I do have the unabridged journals of Sylvia Plath. It's something that I read from time to time because I find her story to be very interesting. The idea of her just always carrying around a journal and always having something to immediately write down, an observation or a thought or anything, is something that I can relate to. I've always been a writer and I love writing. And while I don't always carry a journal with me anymore, I have my phone, and my notes app is just collections and collections of ideas and thoughts and observations. And so that was something that endeared me to Sylvia Plath really early on. But there's also a lot of her famous quotes about women, femininity, equality, girlhood, all the stuff that, again, just love and would love to learn more about her. But she has one quote or like excerpt about a plum tree, and it changed my life. It literally is so, it's just the most real thing ever, and it's something that I personally relate to just so incredibly hard. And it comes from this book right here. Also, not to mention, this is semi-autobiographical. Like, what happens in here, or the kind of trials and tribulations and setting that our main character goes through in here, really happened to Sylvia Plath, from my understanding. So I'm curious to see what that is like. She's writing a fictionalized book, but it's very close to her real life experience. So I wonder what she, like how she wrote this, knowing that she has gone through the same thing. Very interesting. So really excited for this. I think it's going to be a 5-star. I think it's going to be something I adore and put on my best of the best shelf. I'll read it as soon as I possibly can, but I also think it's a very fall vibes book, so who knows. But I would like to read it soon. If I don't get to it soon, though, it'll be in the fall. Next, moving on to Atmosphere. So this one was actually sent to me by one of my best friends, the one that I do the traveling book club with, and she loved it. So let's see what it's about. Joan Goodwin has been obsessed with the stars for as long as she can remember. She is content with her life as a professor of physics and astronomy and is aunt to her precocious niece, Frances, until she comes across an advertisement seeking the first women scientist to join NASA's Space Shuttle program. Suddenly, Joan burns to be one of the few people to go to space. Selected from a pool of thousands of applicants in the summer of 1980, Joan begins training at Houston's Johnson Space Center, alongside an exceptional group of fellow candidates, Top Gun pilot Hank Redmond and scientist John Griffin. Easygoing, even when the stakes are high, mission specialist Lydia Danes, who has worked too hard to play nice, warm-hearted Donna Fitzgerald, navigating her own secrets, and Vanessa Ford, the magnetic and mysterious aeronautical engineer who can fix any engine and fly any plane. As they become unlikely friends and prepare for their first flights, Joan finds a love she never imagined. In this new light, Joan begins to question everything she thinks she knows about her place in the observable universe. Then in December of 1984, on mission STS-LR9, it all changes in an instant. Fast-paced, thrilling, and emotional, Atmosphere is Taylor Jenkins Reid's at her best, telling a passionate and soaring story about the transformative power of love, this time among the stars. This book, particularly, knowing that my best friend loved it, and she doesn't usually cry or get emotional and stuff during books or movies or things, so when she told me that this almost like actually made her cry, I said, oh, okay, I need to read that. 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 But there's another reason that I'm very excited to read this, and it's because it's inspired by the real story of Sally Ride. And I just find her to be super fascinating. I watched a documentary about her the other day. This was a while ago. Like the other day probably means like 2 months ago or more. And I don't know. I just found it so interesting, and I would love to read a book similar to that. Then finally, the last book of this whole video is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. In Monte Carlo, our heroine is swept off her feet by the dashing widower Maxime de Winter and his sudden proposal of marriage. Orphaned and working as a lady's maid, she can barely believe her luck. It is only when they arrive at Manderley, her husband's cavernous estate on the Cornish coast, that she realizes how vast a shadow his late wife Rebecca will cast over their lives, introducing a lingering evil that threatens to destroy their love from beyond the grave. It is hailed as best novel of the century. It is a classic of Gothic literature. So obviously, it would just be a very interesting and cool book to read and have as part of my repertoire. But the real reason that I even have this on this little list right here is because my personal, very close personal friend, Taylor Allison Swift, loves this book. She's actually written Rebecca into several songs, I think, and she talks about this book quite a bit. Actually, most recently she was on, I think, the Stephen Colbert show, and she talked about Rebecca again. And I was like, okay, girl, I really gotta read this. I love Taylor Swift. I'm a huge Swiftie. I have a shadow box from the Eras tour, all of her vinyls. I have a little saint candle of Taylor Swift. Like, I am the Swiftie, okay? And if you're a Swiftie, welcome. This is a safe space for you. If you don't like Taylor Swift's music, hey, no worries. She does not have to be for you. If you hate Taylor Swift and you are like a bully about it and you're like mean and you're like, Taylor Swift sucks, she's a piece of shit, then maybe this isn't for you. Because I hate that. I think that is such a silly opinion to have, and I love her. So bye. Obviously, if she says that this is a good book, I really want to see if I also think it's a good book. And maybe reading this and then listening back to some of Taylor's songs will make me like understand things a little bit more, which I'm very excited. And then maybe I can watch some of the movies. But I have heard good things about this, and I'm very curious. So, Rebecca. Okay, well, that is it for all of the books from my physical TBR that I'm very, very excited to read in 2026. Now that we have all of our predictions and all of our ideas and things and whatever, maybe later on in 2026, I can make a video and just see if I was correct, or if I was really, really wrong. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you've read any of these books, like, don't spoil anything for me, but let me know if you think there's a specific time that I should read some of these. If you loved them, what did you rate them, all of that good stuff. Okay, well, that's all for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day and stay groovy. Bye.